Hi all, I have another magical game of Mikhail Tal to show you. This is against Bukhuti Gurgenidze in the 1957 USSR Championship, which Mikhail Tal at the age of 20 won. So this was Mikhail Tal on the rise up to the 1960 match where he became World Chess Champion. And this is one of the more brilliant games from the 1957 USSR Championship. Gurgenidze is a great player in his own right. IM title in 1968, GM title in 1970. He won the Georgian Championship 12 times and has had some opening variations named after him. So let's have a look at the game. D4. Tal replies with knight f6. We see a dark square strategy in the form of the Benoni defense. So black is hitting hard on the dark squares in the position. E6, E takes, C takes, D6, knight f3, and G6. Fairly standard Benoni sequence, modern Benoni. Black enjoys pressure on E4 here, but has this potential liability pawn. Quite often players with white are ganging up on this pawn, manoeuvring a knight to C4, for example, bishop f4. But there's up and down sides here. Knight d2. We see knight a6, rook e1. Knight c7. More support is given for a later b5 with this move. a4, white is clamping down on any ideas black might have had of a6 and b5. b6, different ideas now. This is a lot about defending this pawn indirectly, being able to play bishop a6 and bishop takes c4. So this pawn isn't ganged up on too much. So queen c2. It also means, by the way, that any a6, sometimes there's b5 as well. Knight g4. Very aggressive move of the knight. And the common advice, if a knight is on the fifth, try and kick it away. But something more radical might be needed here. Because sometimes when you try and kick a piece away, maybe there's other options. Let's see. White in this position played h3. The more radical thing to do here would be just to snap that knight off. And then still try and put some pressure on d6. For example, this position, black might be getting a bit passive to that d6 pawn. And white should be okay here, even though he's giving up the light square bishop. No, this d6 is a pain, and black's getting a little bit passive. But in the game, white played h3 here. So is the knight going somewhere else? Is it going to e5? Is it just provoking pawns forward? It might go to d7 after, you might think. Or is it just going back to f6? What does Tal play here? What do you think Tal played? If I give you 5 seconds to pause video, what would you play here? Okay, it seems to be only just out of the opening here, but Tal plays knight takes f2. Has something gone wrong already for white for this to be potentially working? White takes that. If white tries to slowly surround and engulf that knight, it might be actually an interesting idea, knight f3 for example. But it gives black options. Tal in this position could either take 3 pawns here, and that's quite dangerous for white. A more risky option for black is to try and take off this center pawn. It's possibly too risky because it's giving white this gigantic dark square bishop. So this is possibly a bit too materialistic, this position. But yeah, it's interesting that white could have considered some options, but they're not too pleasant. So yeah, white just takes that knight. We have check here, queen h4 check. And now bishop d4 in this position. Threatening mate in 1 with queen f2. White defense. Now, a spectacular looking move. Can you see what Tal plays? And it's not really a sacrifice either. So if I give you 5 seconds here, what would you play? It's not a true sacrifice. Queen takes h3. It cannot actually be taken because it will be mate here. The bishop's checkmating the king. So another pawn's bitten the dust here. Bishop f3. Now queen h2. Whoa. Pardon me. Hiccup. Queen h2. Okay, queen h2. Threatening queen g1. We have knight e3 trying to stop the coordination of the queen and bishop. Another possibility was knight f2. But here, knight takes d5 is interesting to consider. For example, like this. This is dangerous. What does white do here? It has to give up f1. Look at these knights. With bishop e2 we drop f2. So this is getting really dangerous for white. That would be very good for black. That continuation. So the knight went to e3 here to shield the bishop and queen. f5. Pressure is mounting. And note how this diagonal is also lurking behind the scenes with this bishop. Knight to d4. F takes. And now bishop a6. Nasty pins. Nasty pin on c4. Bishop f3. And now, in this position, Tal just builds up positional pressure. It's pretty calm. He's a piece down, but what is white doing? That's the question. If white's not doing much, can't black just build up? So I guess the calm positional move which Tal played. If I give you 5 seconds here. Just rook e5. Yeah, it's just going to double rooks. Put more pressure on e3. It's not really protected that much by pinned piece. Building up the pressure. Rook a3. White is in a really defensive posture. Trying to keep things together. Doubling the rooks. Bishop d2. But here, now another brilliant move from Tal. Black to play. What would you play in this position? Okay, the time is ripe. Knight takes d5. It's very interesting. If white takes with the knight, he took with the bishop. If he takes with the knight, then e1 is dropping, or in fact, it's even worse than that. Pardon me. It's queen g1 is checkmate here. You cannot take with the knight. Then, yeah, e2 in the escape squares. Queen g1, pretty direct. So bishop takes d5. Check to the black king. Rook takes d5. So again, this knight's pinned, this knight's pinned. Both of the knights are pinned because of that queen g1. We have king e2. Now bishop takes e3. Bishop takes e3 or rook takes e3 is possible. Now white actually chose rook takes e3 here. When I say technically, I mean technically possible. If we look why bishop takes e3 perhaps isn't the best move in the world for a moment, it would seem queen takes g2 check here is actually mate again. It's not just about winning the queen, it's actually checkmate again. It's rather more severe. So it's not just about winning the queen there. This is walking the bishop is pinned. King can't step to the d file. It's actually checkmate. So it's pretty much forced, it seems. Rook takes e3. Now, Tal plays bishop takes c4 check. And white simply resigns here. And yeah, I've made some notes just to make sure I get the right moves now for you guys on YouTube. Why did white resign? I want to tell you precisely why white resigns. Well, the most clinical continuations here. Why did white resign in this particular position? Well, on queen takes c4, queen takes g2 check is fairly straightforward, because actually we're mating on d2. So queen takes c4 is not entirely palatable. The fun is with king d1 or king f2. Let's examine king d1 first. We have rook takes e3, rook takes e3, queen g1 check. Yes, this position, and now queen f2 here. And this is really bad for white. You might think, hold on, isn't white surviving here? He's not getting mated at least, right? No, he's also free pawned down. But, okay, opposite colour bishops. So the queen can't take here because the queen takes d2. Now let's imagine king c1. What does black have in this position? If I give you 5 seconds. Black to play. Okay, bishop b3. Yeah, trying to get the queen away from d2. Queen c3, let's say. And here there's a beautiful finish in this particular position. Can you see what black can do here? And this is why I wanted notes after white's resigning. There's a beautiful move in this position. 5 seconds. Queen takes e1. Yeah, so we can mate on d1. Yeah. So there's that beautiful variation. But also you might think, well, hold on a sec, hold on. There's also king f2. Let's examine king f2. We have check. Rook f3. Queen h4 check is strong here. Say king g1. Rook takes f3. G takes. Queen g3 check is winning because rook h5 is checkmate. Also in this line with king f2, let's have a look again. Check, check. Here, if bishop c3, then black's just like a rook out. There's actually no point showing that. So yeah, it's pretty horrible stuff, this attack. If on king f2, it's pretty lethal. So whatever way happens, king d1 is pretty terminal because of this line check, queen f2. It's like the immediate idea is bishop b3 exterminating black. If black doesn't do anything, just bishop b3 you know, pins the queen. As an example, if the king didn't try and get out, then we just play bishop b3, bang, we're going to win, you know, because of d2, or win the queen. So the king tries to get out, which explains king c1. There's not really much else. You can throw in a check, but it's not going to make much difference here. So if white throws in this check, big deal. It's not making much difference. So let's go with king c1, bishop b3. And there's not many choices here because the queen's got to stick around for d2, so you can't play queen e4 because queen takes d2. Queen b1 would just, you know, take on d2. So queen c3, yeah, and it's just constricted king for, you know, queen takes e1. Yep, it's pretty terminal. I mean, a check could be thrown in here, around here. It doesn't do anything. What is white doing? Just giving up a rook. There's nothing. So yes, the position which white resigned in the end, this position, bishop c4 check. Wow, the Benoni in Tal's hands seems to be a major, gigantic weapon of the time, offering fantastic pressure on the dark squares and king safety implications, direct king safety implications immediately after the opening phase. Basically, you know, as early as move 13 to play knight g4, h3, and then bang, knight takes f2. Amazing stuff. Hope you'll agree. Hope you enjoyed that one. Comments, questions, and likes all appreciated. Thanks very much.